monasales@gmail.com.
Hello, this is Richa. I'm your instructor for business analysis demo and training. I see one of the candidates have dialed in. Is it Kasi?
Hi Mona, yes, Kasi here. Is it Richa or Mona?
Yeah, my name is Richa. I'm the instructor, but I've dialed in through Mona's account. She's the coordinator. So I'm using her account ID.
Okay, Richa.
Well, Kasi, thanks for joining. I'm expecting a couple of more candidates, and then I'll start.
Okay, Richa,
So I'll
sure.
give you the next 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Kasi, we are already 5 minutes up. Can you hear me? You still there? I would like to go ahead and get started. Kasi, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm able to hear you. Sorry, I was in mute and I was.
Okay, no problem. So I will go ahead and start the recording and start sharing my screen, and then we'll take it forward from there. So give me 1 minute. Let me know when you can see my screen and the presentation I'm sharing. I will kind of cater to them later on. That's fine, right? So let me start with my quick introduction here. My name is Richa Mishra, and I'm working as program manager with Cisco Systems Inc. as of now. I have worked as business analyst for like 6 years, but for last 4-5 years, I became project manager come program manager. So right now, BAs and analysts, they kind of report to me. I will be the instructor for this particular training for you guys. And I wanted to quickly walk you through the modus operandi of how I train folks, right? But before that, Kasi, I would like to know, since you're the only candidate right now, if you could quickly give me your introduction so that I have some background of the folks I'm talking to, right? So if you could quickly tell me about your educational and professional background, will be helpful.
I can do that. Sure, I can do that. Risha, I did my master's in computers applications, MCA. A total 14 years of software experience. I'm completely into software testing, both manual and as well as automation.
Okay.
Currently, I'm in USA. It's been my 5th year in USA. In the very recent days, actually, I'm getting some openings on the business analyst side. So many openings, so many calls. Okay, and also when coming to my current situation, my current job or my experience is into testing. Right now, the testing market is really not good. Okay. That's why I thought, okay, why can't? Okay, so why can't I get some training or something else, and why can't I switch to my scenario? But again, I'm in project right now, so busy schedules. But still, today is Sunday. I thought, okay, let me hear at least what is the business analyst and how can I really I'm fit into this role or not, whether I'll be able to do it or not, or kind of thing. So.
Got it. Okay, thank you for your introduction. So let me start with my modus operandi of training, right? And then we can quickly deep dive into your question, what is a BA and what exactly they do, and what are the techniques and tools you should know if you want to, explore a job in business analysis, right? So mainly what I do is I take total of 10 sessions in group. Now, those 10 sessions are pretty much ranging from 4 weeks to 5 weeks because there will be 2 sessions per week, right? So net, you're looking for 4 to 5 weeks of training from business analyst perspective. My group sessions include all the topics which I intend to cover, which will give you a good ground on the job to act as a BA. Those will include hands-on training on tools like Visio, like SQL, Toad, so that you can write queries, because business analysts act heavily and they have to analyze reports, they have to extract reports, all those things, right? So I will be giving you hands-on training on query writing. So all the tools and techniques which are required for you to be working as BA within first 8 sessions. Last two sessions becomes one-on-one with each candidate. I don't do any more group. I do one-on-one after that. The reason of one-on-one becomes because I would have to talk through your resume in a way that you can talk about your resume in interview, right? So those one-on-one sessions are targeted mainly to equip you for face-to-face interviews, the telephonic interviews, how to navigate you through your resume, what are the main questions they ask, and stuff like that. So 8 sessions in group and rest all the sessions one-on-one is what I do. I generally try to support you on the job as well for a couple of, weeks so that you get settled in your job as a BA, and then you pull it through, right? So having said that, this is how I conduct my training, end-to-end training. Okay, I will quickly dive into business analysis and what do you exactly do as when I say, you are a BA, right? So this particular demo is going to walk you through these particular, you can say content as of today, which will give you good enough idea of what a BA should have and what BA is responsible to do. So I will first start with the business organization. Now, this particular slide is my very first slide for this training. Why? Because this is the most critical from the placement perspective. I want to be very clear that a business analyst is a liaison between the executives and the fields on the ground. So, for example, you will be part of something called PMO, which is the project management office of any organization, any standard organization. Now, when I say PMO includes sponsors who actually fund your project for which you are being hired. You got several PMs, IT PM, business PM, SMEs and whatnot involved in that PMO. You have either one BA or 4 BAs, depending on how big the project is, who is working on the same project. Sometimes one BA is given just one module. Otherwise, if it's a small project, one BA handles the entire project. You have end users who are very critical piece of that particular PMO. Then you got subject matter experts. All of them together, what we refer to them is called stakeholder. So why am I giving you this particular navigation in the very first shot? Because business analyst is a liaison between all these stakeholders, right? You have to talk it through. You got to gather the requirements and then you have to document it, get the sign off and pass it through the IT team and the QA teams. That's exactly what a BA has to do. Now, when I say you have to coordinate all those stuff, meaning you are continuously acting as a bridge between these stakeholders. That is a one-liner definition of what a business analyst is. Now, to be able to explain what BA does in a more detailed manner, this is one definition which covers every aspect of you as a BA. So this says that a BA works as a liaison among stakeholders. I just told you who stakeholders are. And what do you do while you are liaisoning? You are elicitating, analyzing, continuously communicating and validating requirements. Now, those requirements are nothing but the set of functionalities which an end user is looking for, right? Those set of functionalities or requirements could be related to new business process, new policy changes in that organization, or if there is a new information system which is being introduced, right? So your requirements could be related to any of these changes. And what you got to do is you got to gather those requirements, analyze those requirements, communicate them, and then validate them. That's it. That's all your job is. While you are doing those 4 things around the requirement, you are actually acting as a member of software development team because users consider you as part of IT because you are talking to IT and getting those requirements translated into an application. Right? You are liaisoning your client because suppose if you are working as a vendor or a consultant, you actually try to work for your client in that. You are the person who creates business or technical artifacts. When I say artifacts, that's strictly a jargon, which means all sorts of documentation which becomes the Bible of the project. For example, business requirement document or BRD, that is a Bible of the project. So you are actually the author of that Bible, and you own that particular RD50 or BRD, right? That particular artifact helps, and this is just one artifact I'm telling you, which is BRD. There are a couple of more which a business analyst has to work on. For example, use case document. For example, business case document. Or sometimes, if you are really experienced BA, you even are required to write project charters, which is the very first document which kickstart a project. Right? But those things only senior BAs does. But standard work is your Visio flow diagram, which is called BP, business process flow diagrams, BRD, FRD. All these documentation is being owned by a BA. Right? Then obviously, if you own a document, then you have to act as a coordinator or a bridge between IT and these business subject matter expertise, right? Because you have gathered requirements and now you are transferring those requirements to your IT department so that they can start application development on that. And during that process, you do several other things like change management requests and other things, which I will teach you in detail in my mainstream sessions. So net, responsibilities of a BA is to perform several types of analysis which are required while you are gathering requirements. There are many analysis which you do. In my mainstream sessions, going to teach you all those analysis in detail. I'll provide you specific format also which you should be using on the job to conduct those analysis. For example, feasibility analysis. You got two options. Which one is the most feasible, right? Very common scenario on the job. ROI analysis, return on investment analysis, benchmarking, gap, SWOT analysis. These are all the analysis which are being conducted by business analysts. So when you register, when you join my trainings, I will have one full dedicated session to teach you guys how these types of analysis are done, what are the industry standard templates which you can use, and so on and so forth. Right? How to write business case, how to define a scope, how to document BRD. I will be providing you all the samples. I will make you guys, I'll give you business cases. You would have to come up with BRD. All these practice sessions will happen, right? Which is your main responsibility as BA. And after you are done documenting, how do you communicate those requirements to IT team? How do you help IT identify a right solution? And there is some part of validation which even a BA does. So you told me that you were a QA, right? So QA validates, but there is major chunk of validation which BA does, which is called business acceptance testing. Because you own the business requirement, you are required to conduct BAT, only BAT. And you drive UAT. You don't conduct UAT, but you drive those meetings. Because users are actually dependent on you, right?
Correct.
So basically, in that organization, you are continuously working with your project managers. You're working along with your co-BAs. You are closely working with your architect teams because they solution your requirements. So they seek explanations from you, right? You're working sometimes with data modelers, if suppose data mapping exercise is required and stuff, which I'm going to teach you in my sessions. You are actually continuously working with developers because while developing code, they have a lot of questions around requirements. So they reach out to you. And then, of course, you work with QA so that you can drive your BAT and UAT sessions. Now, when I say job of a BA, actually this statement is not, underrated. That job of a BA starts with gathering requirement, hovers around requirements, and ends with requirement being translated as application. So the first and foremost thing of any project is writing requirements. So my whole session will be dedicated for you guys to learn how to write business requirements, functional requirements. And non-functional requirements are something which IT analysts do, not a business analyst. But they refer to BRs and FRs, and then they further break it down to non-functional requirements. But as a BA, you will be only required to write business requirements and functional requirements. That will be my main focus point. Okay. I really wanted to quickly navigate you through this particular diagram just so that I tell you that how critical position of a BA is in any organization, right? So imagine that this is what customer is looking for, a 3-tier swing in this shape. Now you being the project lead or a BA, you gathered requirement from the customer. He explained it to you. While requirement gathering, you misunderstood the requirement altogether. You understood that it's requiring a swing and something like this, and it has one queue. So their starting point is itself not correct. So it shows that how critical is for a person who gathers requirement to correctly understand the expectation of the client. On top of it, understanding is one thing. Communicating is another important aspect. You are misunderstood and then you miscommunicated. So the bottom line of a successful BA is how well you understand the requirement and how well you communicate that requirement further down to your team. So 2 aspects of a BA, understanding and communication. When I say communication, communication can be in written format, which is your document. Communication can be in your presentations because you have to navigate them through the document. Communication can be through emails when you are trying to answer your questions, their questions, any sort of communication. Okay. So if these first steps are not correct, the entire outcome of the project becomes useless. So first 3 steps are absolutely critical for the success of any project. I will be touching upon SDLC for sure. And during SDLC, I will not, because you are a QA, I'm not touching upon what is SDLC. I'm pretty sure you would know it, right? But what I want to touch today is that there are several methodologies in SDLC. So for example, if you're working on Agile, or if you're working on Waterfall, or RDP, or Hybrid, your SDLC and your style of working as BA absolutely differs. So in my mainstream session, I'm going to teach you how a BA conducts something in Waterfall methodology and how a BA conducts something in an Agile methodology. Sometimes you act as a Scrum Master. So I'm going to touch upon several aspects of Agile and Scrum, which is the latest methodology. During Scrum and Waterfall, I will be demoing you and teaching you 2 very, very critical tools which a BA use. I'll give you a demo of something called Rally, and I will walk you through essentials of Jira. Jira not as a QA. Jira is used by a BA as well as by project managers. So my take on these rallies and Jiras and everything will be from BA perspective. Okay, along with other tools which I'm going to teach you. Now, main work of a business analyst comes at the analysis phase. This is the phase where most deliverable is on us, on a BA. That deliverable could be on the analysis, which is required, or on requirement gathering, or on deliverable of those documents, which could be our BRD and FRDs, right? After analysis phase is complete, we go into design phase, where we participate and we become one of the critical resources. Why? Because use cases and wireframes and prototyping is again which is being done by BA. I will be investing a lot of time in use case diagrams. Mostly when you go for a BA interview, at least personally, I spend a lot of time asking questions around use cases from a BA. If I'm a hiring manager, the reason I do that is that shows me the extent of scenarios you as a BA can think. How many positive and negative scenarios you can present, which will lead to successful application development. So I invest a lot of time in use cases and wireframes, and I try to prepare you from that front, from interview perspective. Okay. And then comes your development phase, and of course, you become the project coordinator. Try to coordinate with all your developers, answer the questions and whatever they have doubts. As I mentioned, in testing phase, you are not responsible for SIT regression performance, but what you are responsible for is conducting BA and driving BAT and driving UAT. Two things. There are specific formats, industry standard formats, which I will be sharing, which you can use on the job, which will be very helpful for your interview perspective as well. Then implementation of the project happens, your release happens, and then sometimes there are post-go live, or production support, which a BA has to give in form of reporting, analysis. That will be one of the topics. I'm going to cover several methodologies. As I mentioned, I'll be covering 3 main methodologies: waterfall, RUP, and agile methodology. And these are one of the latest ones in the market. And I will be skipping this one, right? Because many times fresh grads come in my training and this particular slide is for them. But since you are experienced, Kasi, I'm going to skip this one. You know what is requirement, right? And what requirement is nothing but the functionality user is looking for in the application, right? So I'm going to skip this one. I'll skip this one too. And this is what I want to cover. As I mentioned that a business analyst is mainly responsible for requirements. There are several techniques which you use to gather requirement. Not every organization you can go and do interviews. In my current organization, I support Globe. My users are scattered across the globe. Half of them in APAC, India, Americas. So talking to them one-on-one is just not possible. So in those scenarios, you use different group techniques. This is one of the very frequent questions people ask BAs. So my main focus remains here. And then I also teach you how to answer those questions if they are being asked in the interview. I will be teaching you types of requirements, what are the differences between requirements, what are the subtleties, right? Because it becomes very difficult if you're a fresher. It becomes very difficult for you to defend yourself in interview. That's where I help and try to guide you how to answer to the point, how to be more technical. Apart from that, I'll be teaching you other management skills, which as a BA you must have, meaning how do you manage change request of the requirement? How do you do risk assessment of the milestones which you are about to miss or achieve? What are the negotiating techniques or deadlock breaking techniques? Meaning, by that I mean that there are users who need requirements. There is development team who said this cannot be delivered and you have a deadlock. How do you break that deadlock? That is one of our responsibilities as BA, right? So these are the topics which I intend to cover in my demos, in my mainstream trainings. And apart from these theoretical topics, my main focus will be on practical business cases. You will be required to write actual BRD, and you would have to walk me through your work so that I can assess it. That will boost up your confidence that, okay, I've already done one documentation. I will be teaching you several tools as I mentioned, and after every tool walkthrough, I will be giving you assignment, and then in the very next session, you would have to demo me, make me a presentation that okay, this is how I'm going to do on the job. So pretty much very practical approach and on the job training kind of thing is what you should look for from this particular training. That's what I had today as far as high level demo is concerned. I would pause here and give you a few minutes to ask me questions in case you have, Kasi.
Yes, Nisha, thank you very much for walking through this. Really, really